Hey, everybody, this is Rodney O'Quinn, bass player with Foghat, and you're listening to Bruce Moore on the Brutally Delicious Podcast.
One, two, three, four. The Brutally Delicious Podcast. The Brutally Delicious Podcast. The Brutally Delicious Podcast. The Brutally Delicious Podcast.
And issues.
How are you doing, man?
Good.
I'm glad you were able to take the time. Where are you at today?
I'm home right now in Florida.
Oh, nice. What?
I live in Melbourne, which is just below Cocoa Beach on the East Coast.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I used to live in St. Pete for a while.
Okay, yeah, me and my wife love it over there.
Yeah, it's gotten really expensive now, but
Oh, yeah.
we lived down there for about 18 years or so.
I got you. Nice.
So anyway, let's talk about Foghat.
Let's talk about Foghat.
I guess my first question is, and this might be a big one, but how does it feel to be still doing this after so many years and still be relevant?
It's quite, it's a very surreal thing to me. I mean, obviously I'm not an original guy, but Roger's the last remaining original person in the band, and he's kept the machine going for 52 years.
That's
man.
Crazy.
Yeah, and he don't show up any signs of wanting to hang up the drumsticks anytime soon.
That's good.
But yeah, it's excellent. Yeah. But to me, it's like a real surreal thing because, when Foghat Live first came out in 77, that's when I was just starting to try to figure out how to play bass. And, that was one of my go-to records, whether I was trying to learn it on my bass or if I was cranking up the tennis racket and air playing.
Right.
But later in life, Craig McGregor pretty much handpicked me to be his successor. So that gives me one of those Mark Wahlberg moments in that movie Rockstar.
Yeah.
I used to have posters of these guys on my wall. Now I'm one of them.
Was it like really surreal?
Yeah, it was really cool. It was a very flattering honoring, that he even mentioned it. It all came about, some of the crew guys would mention my name every now and then because every so often Craig was taking time off because he was managing his son's band. And I was playing with Pat Travers at the time, and there was one weekend we played his hometown, and he was off the road that weekend. So him and his wife came out, and we hung out. And then the next morning, he picked me up, took me to his house, and cooked me a fantastic breakfast. And we sat at the kitchen table and talked about everything from A to Z. And then towards the end of the conversation, he just kind of said, if the opportunity would arise, would you be interested? And I'm like, well, I would hate to see you leave Foghat, but put my name in the hat.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So a couple of months later, I didn't hear anything, and then all of a sudden one day, I got a call, and we kind of started putting everything in motion. But Roger always says that after I'd left from that meeting, Craig called him, and all he would say is like, mini me. and then he would just go, just for Rodney, just give Rodney the gig. This is for Rodney. He's the guy. So I'm like going, yeah.
A lot of pressure.
I just wish it would have been under. Yeah. I was already playing with, I played with Pat Travers for almost 9 years. And in the meantime, I've played with a lot of other people, Mark Farner, Ronnie Montrose.
Right.
Did gigs with Derek St. Holmes as well, so I've kind of been around the block a little.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but it was just kind of it was a very cool thing, because all of a sudden this was like a true a mentor of mine, and all of a sudden he's like, yeah, I'm giving you the nod. So I wish it was under different circumstances. Unfortunately, it was a health issue that took him off the road, and I hate that, but
you were there, so yeah.
I was there, so.
So Sonic Mojo, what was the writing process like? You guys able to all write together? And if so,
it was.
Go ahead.
It was a very. This one was done a little kind of different because it was kind of pieced together at times. Because Roger was getting ready to have shoulder surgery, so he was like, and I want to get a record done. Management's on us about doing a record. So it was kind of we got in there and kind of hashed it out, had some ideals. Plus Kim Simmons, had wrote some songs. That was his thing. He was like, he was having a hard time touring because of his health, but he was still writing a lot. And he came back to Roger, and, we got 3 songs on there, but he had wrote 4, but we got 3 on here. But, so that lent a hand. So he had kind of, we just polished up a little bit of what he had already done. And then we had some other stuff we'd been kicking around for a while that we just never got a chance to do anything with. So there was a certain amount of it that was kind of there, but just needed some polishing. And then there was a few different things we did that those guys had kind of cut the drum tracks, and then I showed up, and then they go, okay, you need to put bass to this. And I'm like going, well, all right. But what was real crazy is some of the ones that when they would play them back to me, because all of a sudden there was a couple of them I hadn't even heard at all, and I'm like going, okay, well, what am I going to do here? And actually, it was like when it was all said and done, I was going, yeah.
So wait, there are some songs you didn't hear till you got to the studio?
Yeah.
Wow.
Which, I mean, some of them were remakes, because Foghat's always done some, but it was like they did their little twist, like Mean Woman Blues. It's a very old blues song, but I mean, it almost, when we cut it, they almost kind of cut it with a little bit of a Latin feel. I'm a white Florida redneck.
Right.
Yeah. About the only thing worse they could have done to me was cut a reggae track. Reggae music's like my kryptonite.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You try to get me to play reggae, you'll find out real quick how white I am.
So if you're in Florida, I'm imagining a lot of this was done, besides the ones that you learned in the studio or heard first time in the studio, by email, right?
Yeah, we did bounced a little bit of stuff around with email, and it'd be just like, well, here's a scratch guitar and drum, or scratch guitar and just a click track and stuff like that. But yeah, some of these though, for me, I just kind of showed up. Okay, it's time for you to cut bass tracks. Okay, I walk in and sit there with the headphones and listen to them for a few times. Okay, let's try this. Let's try that. Let's try the other. Yeah, we didn't record this all at once. It was definitely done in the box,
right,
so to speak. When we did stuff on Under the Influence, the last studio record, there was a lot of that was just cut live. And there was still a certain amount of that was still done in the box too, but not as much. This one here, because of trying to hurry up and get drum tracks done first, that Roger'd be happy with before, his surgery, kind of dictated a lot of it.
It's amazing, like, where the technology has brought us, right? Because I think sometimes and you could probably speak to this more than me, but I think sometimes you sacrifice immediacy and doing it, being able to do it that way as for like quality, I guess, because a lot of times you would be able to get into a studio and bounce things off each other, right? And the songs would sort of progress and change and morph.
Yeah, and then there's a certain amount of just playing the songs as a band for a little while before you actually go in the studio. Because there's a couple of these tracks that we're playing live already, and, you can see where there's little changes if we've made, because as we're more so playing it together and gelling more, it's kind of changed a few things here and there.
Yeah, that was my point. Because I think in the old days, everybody bounced stuff off, and the songs kind of changed before they got to the studio, right? Right.
So, I mean, I've done that before where we actually had time that we even would try songs live for a little while just to see what would work live and stuff. And then by the time you actually made it into the studio, you'd kind of really already polished a lot of the edges off of it.
Right. So with that being... Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, if that's the case, then you did stuff like that in the past. Were those songs, or do you write songs like how they're going to come across on stage or what the audience reaction is going to be? Or do you write the song more or less for the song's sake?
Me personally, when I write songs, I try to think in terms of how that's going to convey live. Because there's tons of songs bands write, and you'll listen to them. They're great for listening, but then you try to play them live, it just doesn't work.
Right.
And so I've kind of, my process is that I try to, envision this being played live on stage and how it would, sound and feel. But then a lot of approaches as well is just, hey, I kind of got this going on and I'm digging it. What do you think about it? Yeah, we dig it. And it's just, hey, it's a song that we're happy about.
Right.
And we have a couple of those on the record, that we did, that it's like they sound real good and they felt good, Are they song? We were quite pleased with the finished product, but is it something we would truly play live? Don't know.
Right. No, that makes sense. What about?
But
go ahead.
But there's tons of songs off of the Foghat, catalogs throughout the years that are the same way. They're great to listen to, but just live, it's like it just. Your diehard fans would want to hear it, but, does it really move people like it does if they were just kind of sitting at home chilling and listening to it or driving around and cruising in their car?
Right.
Are
you planning on taking this out on the road? Or are you guys out on the road already?
Oh, we're always on the road, man. I'm just, we tour a little bit differently, like a lot of bands do nowadays. We do fly dates. We don't do buses no more.
Right.
But at that rate, literally, this past weekend, we played Thursday night in Boston, just outside of Boston at a festival. And then we played Friday night in Las Vegas. So,
wow.
At that rate, you can bounce.
Yeah. No,
so, but we're good. Yeah, we're good for about 60 to 70 shows a year.
Wow. So do you find it difficult, being of a certain age, I guess, doing 70 dates a year? Because that's still a lot, right?
Yeah, it's traveling's exhausting.
Yeah.
And of course, that's our joke. We don't get paid to play; we get paid to travel.
Right, wait in airports and stuff.
Yeah, the playing's the fun part of it all. I didn't mind all the travel and the hectic schedule until trying to get back into the swing of doing it after the pandemic. Because when the pandemic hit, we were off the road for 16 months. And when we first started going back, it was like, oh, God, I used to enjoy this.
Right. You got spoiled.
Yeah. And it just seems... it just doesn't, it definitely, and well, of course, I guess that's part of getting older.
Yeah, for sure.
But none of us will say a word about it because Roger just trucks right along, not a care in the world. And, everything's great. So it's like, as long as he's good with it, I guess I can't say nothing.
Right. And in the end, bands come and go so much, right? It's amazing that somebody makes it 5 years, let alone, what we say, 51. It's crazy, right?
Right. And the thing is, like I said, Roger's been the constant force there. Brian Bassett has been affiliated with Foghat about 27 years.
Right.
He actually got into Foghat, not necessarily with Roger, because there was a point in history. Lonesome Dave went back to England. Roger kept Foghat going, and Dave was cool with it. But then when Dave came back to the States again, he just started his own thing instead of saying, hey, let's get back together.
Right.
And there was a point that there was almost like two Foghats. There was Foghat and there was Lonesome Dave Pevert's Foghat. Well, Brian Bassett played with Lonesome Dave.
Right.
And then when Rick Rubin wanted to get the original four back together, that kind of put Brian to the side. So he went with Molly Hatchet at the end.
Right.
And when Rod Price couldn't tour no more, it was instantly Roger was like, well, Dave, you want me to audition guitar players? And Dave's like, no, I got the guy. And then Brian came back in. So collectively, Brian's been in the fold at least 27 years now.
Right.
And then like Charlie retired at 20 years. He was the previous singer.
Sure.
He retired at 20 years, and I've already been in here over over 8.5 now myself. Right. And then Scott's already hitting 2 years.
But the
Time
music
flies, man.
But the music is timeless, right? I mean, there are those classics that are just timeless.
Yeah, and the thing is, though, I mean, we were all true fans.
Right.
You know, I mean, we were, you know, like Brian, me, you know, Scott, we were Foghat fans. We weren't just guys that, oh, I need a gig, let me go play with this guy.
Right.
You know, and, you know, we were just fans to it. And it's like me, if I'm not a fan of the music, I have no interest in doing it.
No, that makes sense.
You know, yeah, I mean, it's just that. Just there's so many guys, it's like they'll move from one band to the next, and it's kind of like just a paycheck. And
right.
Nah, that's okay.
So the last one I have,
that's got to be fun.
Yeah, the last one I have, because I told the man that I'd keep it under 20, is what's it like now? Because you guys are out there playing new tunes, I assume. So is the response really good to like drive-in and stuff?
Actually, yeah. I mean, right now in the show, we're playing Driving On, She's a Little Bit of Everything, and I Don't Appreciate You. And actually, all three of those songs are just going over great. You can see people just, you know, bobbing their heads, and, you know, you can see people where they're picking up on the line of She's a Little Bit Everything and I Don't Appreciate You. Those people kind of pick up real quick on those, you know, taglines that you can actually see them singing along.
Right.
But yeah, we've had tremendous, and two of those songs we've already released, kind of like sneak release. And then I think another one's fixing to drop here in the next week or two. You know, teasers before the actual release date on November 10th. But so far, you know, people's just really, really taken to it.
That's fantastic.
So that's a good sign. Rock and roll's still alive.
Yes. I think it's more needed than ever because everybody needs a little bit of a distraction and a little bit of, you know, fun from the shit we live through.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of our little taglines. We let people know, you know, after we play our first song and we talk a little bit, you know, Scott just talks about, you know, hey, if you don't mind, you know, next hour or so, we're just going to play some music and have some fun and forget about, you know, everything else that's going on.
Yes. Yep. I agree. Well, that's all I had. I appreciate you taking the time, and I'm sorry that we kind of got jumbled here in the beginning.
No, that's okay. I just figured it was me again because it seems like it never fails.
I could blame you if you want, but I don't know if it was me or
you. Okay. I'll take it.